Buck is a big, don't bruh. I hate Buck. I hate young Buck, fam. Buck is, so we ain't gonna talk about Buck at all, period.
But count on my nigga.
You said what?
Take me off the camera.
What's up with you and 50?
Take me off the camera.
What you mean take you off the camera, bro?
Take it off. We don't want to be recorded.
Too many trans women have came out to out us, okay? At this point, this man is...
When GUnit first exploded onto the scene, they were untouchable. The whole crew rode on 50 Cent's massive wave of success, moving like a powerhouse ready to crush anyone standing in their way. But one name stood out from the start, Young Buck. He was hungry, humble, and loyal to 50 for giving him that shot. And man, he didn't waste a second proving his worth. His debut album went platinum, his verses were fire, and everyone thought he was next up for greatness. Then out of nowhere, things got messy, real messy. His infamous fallout with 50 Cent flipped his whole world upside down.
Whatever the you thought you seen on the tape, ain't no mother tape or no mother punk sucking my before you ordinary cook up.
What started as brotherhood turned into chaos, and Buck's life went from Hollywood dreams to public disaster overnight. One minute, he was one of hip-hop's most respected Southern voices. The next, he was a walking headline. Every move he made surrounded by drama and controversy. Even when he tried to clear his name, it just never hit right. It's wild thinking about how it all began. Buck wasn't some industry plant. He was a 14-year-old Nashville kid who could freestyle circles around grown rappers. His talent was raw, electric, and real. When 50 signed him to GUnit, that was the ultimate cosign, like being knighted in hip-hop royalty. Buck became the southern soul of GUnit. He brought that gritty Tennessee flavor, the energy, the slang, the rhythm. He didn't just fit in, he expanded GUnit's sound, linking up with southern heavyweights like Ludacris and T.I., injecting that wild southern heat into the crew's cold New York edge. He was dropping music nonstop, consistently feeding fans, keeping GUnit alive when others were quiet. But somewhere along the line, things went off the rails. Bad choices, shady deals, broken loyalty, it all started stacking up. And once the respect faded, it was gone. His peers turned distant, the fans stopped cheering, and the rise turned into a fall that never seemed to end.
So what?
Take me off the camera.
What's up with you and 50?
Take me off the camera.
What you mean take you off the camera, bro?
Take it off. We don't want to be recorded.
So he said you were trained.
So what really went wrong for Young Buck? Because before the chaos, he was just a kid, freestyling on street corners in Nashville, battling anybody brave enough to step up. That's how Young Buck first started making waves in his city, just a hungry teen trying to turn dreams into something real. One day, he and his boy Lil Jimmy stumbled on a BG CD from Cash Money Records called Chopper City. On the back was a phone number for Cash Money. So what did they do? They called it. No plan, no permission, just bold energy and big talk. They told Cash Money they wanted to book them for a show in Nashville, claiming they had $5,000 ready to go. Crazy, right? But the wild part is, Cash Money actually believed them. Before they knew it, Birdman and the whole crew were in Nashville ready to perform. But here's the twist, the show never happened. Instead, Buck and Lil Jimmy ended up face to face with the entire Cash Money squad. That's when everything changed. Birdman looked at Buck and said, "Spit something." Buck jumped straight in, going bar for bar with Lil Wayne himself. Imagine that, 14 years old, standing toe-to-toe with one of the hottest young rappers in the game. Birdman was blown away. He saw something raw, something special, and decided to take Buck under his wing, literally bringing him from Nashville to New Orleans with plans to sign him to Cash Money Records. Buck dropped out of school and bet everything on music.
Young Buck is a LGBT man.
It was 1995. Cash Money wasn't the empire it would later become. Birdman was still building from the ground up, surrounded by hungry artists chasing a dream. Buck thought he'd blow up alongside them, but the spotlight never came his way. He spent 3 to 4 long years grinding under Cash Money, waiting for his shot, but nothing dropped. No singles, no albums, no push. Meanwhile, artists like Lil Wayne, Juvenile, and BG were taking off. It was like Buck was trapped behind the scenes, all talent and no platform. The only real thing he got from that chapter was a cameo in the Big Timers' Big Ballin' music video. That was it. By 1999, Buck had had enough. He was tired of empty promises and missed chances. So he walked away from Cash Money, determined to make it on his own terms. He wanted the world to hear what he could really do, and he wasn't about to wait around for permission anymore. Walking away from Cash Money wasn't the end. It was the lesson that built young Buck into the beast he'd become. Those years weren't a total loss at all. He soaked up the game, learned the industry's hidden rules, and connected with people who'd later change his whole life. One of those key names was DJ Paul from 3 6 Mafia, a major plug who'd soon play a big role in Buck's next move. He also stayed cool with Juvenile, one of Cash Money's biggest stars, who'd circle back later to give Buck a real shot. By 1999, Buck was back in Nashville, ready to do it his own way. He linked up with his local crew, including a rapper named D-Tay, and together they dropped an independent project called Thug Till the End on August 22nd, 2000. And guess what? It actually charted. The album hit number 34 on the R&B charts and number 17 on the independent albums chart. A massive win for two underground rappers from Tennessee. They sold around 10,000 copies. Real hustle numbers. Buck realized music could be his way out, but he still had one foot in the streets until everything changed. A home invasion turned fatal. Buck got shot multiple times, forcing him to face reality. That moment flipped a switch in him. He left the street life behind and went all in on music, for real this time.
Soon I took it. I was supposed to be in school at the time. I dropped out of school. Those years, they progress was happening. You never even heard me on a project. Time passed and I'm watching all this success and not seeing nothing happen for me. It became a time where I was like...
When DJ Paul heard about Buck's shooting, he didn't waste a second. He'd always seen Buck's potential. So he called Project Pat and told him, go get Buck out of Nashville. Bring him to Memphis. Once there, they hit the studio and started cooking. One of their collabs, Memphis, even landed on 3 6 Mafia's classic album, When the Smoke Clears, 66-61. That could have been Buck's big break. But surprisingly, he never officially signed with 3 6 Mafia. Instead, he went back to Nashville and kept grinding solo, building his name brick by brick. And as his buzz started rising again, Birdman took notice, calling Buck up with a new offer. He said he had a fresh crew called Head Bussa and wanted Buck in the mix. The streets were watching, and once again, Buck was right back at the edge of something big. Buck caught the first flight back to New Orleans to meet with Birdman again. But this time, everything had changed. The offices were bigger, the cars were flashier, and Cash Money was officially living large. But behind all that shine, Buck found himself doing the same thing as before, waiting around with no paperwork in sight. After a whole week of just sitting, watching, and hoping, his patience ran out. That's when fate stepped in. Buck ran into Juvenile, who dropped a bomb on him. I'm leaving Cash Money. Come with me. I'm starting my own thing. That moment changed everything. Buck followed him and became part of UTP Records, Juvenile's new label. But here's the twist. Buck never officially signed. He had the contract, sure, but instead of putting pen to paper, he slid it under his bed and left it there. So while he was rocking with Juvenile and UTP, technically, he wasn't signed to anyone.
Getting a call again from Baby. This time it was more or less, I'm about to start this group called Head Busters. So, at the end of the day, I went back being there for like a week or so of sitting around. I started to get a little itchy. Like you said, I done became a man now.
Even so, Buck stayed busy. He dropped Born to Be a Thug on October 10th, 2002, and teamed up with the UTP Pliers for their compilation album just 2 days earlier on October 8th, 2002. He was working, performing, and building his buzz. But things behind the scenes were messy. Juvenile was dealing with his own drama with Cash Money, and Buck could feel the tension. At one point, Juvenile even told him straight up, if another opportunity comes your way, take it. And that's exactly what Buck did. While on tour with Juvenile, the crew stopped in New York, and at that time, nobody was hotter than 50 Cent. The tour bus driver happened to know Shaw Money XL, 50's former manager, and Buck started pressing him nonstop to connect them. Eventually, it happened, but 50 wasn't there for Buck. He came through to record with Juvenile. While 50 and Juve were in the back of the bus working, Buck was up front vibing with Lloyd Banks and Tony Yayo. And when he played some of his solo tracks, Banks's ears perked up. One track in particular hit hard. Banks took it straight to 50, who loved it so much he jumped on it himself. That song would later become Bloodhound on the legendary Get Rich or Die Tryin' album. 50 was impressed with Buck's sound but couldn't sign him right away since he wasn't officially with any label. Still, that connection stuck. Then, just a week after things fell apart with UTP, Buck got the call that would change everything. 50 Cent was on the line saying, "We want that Bloodhound track. We'll give you $20,000 for it, and we're putting it on the album." That Bloodhound track changed everything. Once Eminem and Dr. Dre got their hands on it for mixing, 50 Cent made the move. He wanted Young Buck in Los Angeles to meet the legends themselves and officially join GUnit. That's when Buck made his first stage. His feature on Get Rich or Die Tryin' was the start of a whole new chapter. But instead of rushing into Buck's solo debut, 50 decided to launch a GUnit group album first.
Ordeal back in the streets, I ended up getting shot in a home invasion.
And that project became the classic Beg for Mercy. Man, that album was a monster. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, selling an insane 377,000 copies in the first week. Over time, it crossed 2.7 million in US sales and came close to diamond numbers worldwide. That wasn't just success, it was domination. And right there in the middle of it all was Young Buck, introducing himself to the world like a Southern powerhouse with something to prove. The hype from Beg for Mercy set up the perfect stage for Buck's solo breakout. By 2004, he was locked in and ready. Before the album dropped, GUnit did what they did best, hit the streets with a mixtape. On May 31st, 2004, Buck dropped Welcome to the Hood, hosted by DJ Whoo Kid, setting the streets on fire. Then came the summer heat. His debut single, Let Me In, featuring 50 Cent, dropped on July 2nd, 2004, and it went crazy, peaking at number 34 on the Billboard Hot 100. Just weeks later, on August 24th, 2004, Buck dropped his debut album Straight Outta Cashville, and it exploded, debuting at number 3, with 361,000 copies sold in the first week. Eventually, it went platinum. Then Buck followed it up with his second single, Shorty Wanna Ride, released on August 26, 2004. That track became his biggest solo hit, climbing to number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. Buck had officially arrived. But right when everything was going his way, chaos struck. On November 15, 2004, at the Vibe Awards, the night meant to celebrate hip-hop turned into madness. The room was packed. Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, the entire GUnit crew, even Suge Knight was there. Out of nowhere, a man named Jimmy Johnson allegedly attacked Dr. Dre, and in the wild aftermath, reports claimed Young Buck retaliated, ending him in response. The night that was supposed to mark Buck's triumph ended in blood, shock, and headlines that would haunt him for years. After the chaos at the Vibe Awards, Buck went on the run, but not for long. A few days later, he turned himself in and faced the heat head-on. The case dragged out for almost a year and a half, and when it was finally settled, Buck walked away with 3 years of probation and 80 hours of community service. By 2005, even though he didn't drop a new album, Buck stayed on his grind. He popped up on multiple features, pushed out independent projects, and started building his own team of artists.
Tell y'all, that record was Bloodhound on 50's Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Basically, 50, heard the record and liked the record, seen what he seen in me, gave me the biggest opportunity.
50 Cent had just expanded GUnit and gave Buck his own lane, GUnit South. That was a major move, and Buck ran with it, dropping fire mixtapes and putting new Southern rappers on the map. But behind the cameras and hit records, things inside GUnit were getting tense. 50 Cent and his former manager Shaw Money XL, who was managing everyone on the label, were bumping heads over business. 50 told the whole team to switch management, but Buck refused. His loyalty to Shaw ran deep. He didn't want to betray the man who helped him come up. That loyalty, though, ended up putting Buck directly at odds with 50. Rumors started flying that Buck was getting too close to 50's enemies. The Game, Jadakiss, Fat Joe, and Jim Jones. 50 wasn't having it. To make things worse, Buck's finances were spiraling. He was allegedly burning through cash and skipping taxes. 50 even stepped in and paid his taxes twice, but when it happened a third time, 50 lost all patience. Meanwhile, Buck started doing more solo performances, and fans began wondering, was he still G-Unit or not? In interviews, Buck swore he was still part of the crew, just trying to grow his own brand. But the truth, behind closed doors, he and 50 hadn't spoken for nearly 8 months. Eventually, Shaw Money XL told Buck straight up, "Call 50 and fix this." They finally reconnected, and for a moment, it looked like things were back on track. Buck started pushing himself as a solo powerhouse, repping Cashville Records instead of G-Unit South. He even swapped out G-Unit gear for Tennessee t-shirts, a slick nod to Tennessee. But that move only added fuel to the rumors that he was done with G-Unit for good. Then, in January 2008, things really blew up. Buck hit the stage with Lil Wayne and Birdman, and right there, Birdman publicly told him, "Come join Young Money, Cash Money." And Buck didn't shut it down. He smiled, laughed, and played along. That moment set off alarm bells for 50, who saw it as a straight-up sign of betrayal. The tension between them was about to explode. By February 2008, but fans immediately noticed something off. Young Buck was missing. Just months earlier, he was still appearing on group records, so his sudden absence had everyone confused and talking. Behind the scenes, things were tense. Buck and 50 finally sat down for a private conversation in hopes of clearing the air. But what Buck didn't know was that 50 secretly recorded the whole thing. Even with all the drama, they managed to make peace, at least for the moment. But that peace didn't last long. Then came April 7th, 2008, a Monday morning that would change everything. 50 Cent called into Hot 97 live on air and made it official. Young Buck was no longer a member of G-Unit. He was still signed as a solo artist to G-Unit Records, but as far as the group, he was out. Just like that, one of hip-hop's most loyal soldiers was suddenly on the outside looking in, and the fallout was just getting started. The very next week after 50's shocking Hot 97 call, the entire G-Unit crew pulled up to the same station.
Says this auction was the last resort as it tries to get the nearly $200,000 in taxes the former G-Units.
And things got even uglier. 50 Cent went all in, telling the world that Young Buck had a problem. The betrayal stung hard. Buck stayed quiet for a while, letting the internet run wild with rumors and headlines. But on May 12th, 2008, he came back swinging with a track called My Interview, where he addressed everything: his fallout with 50, his removal from G-Unit, and those accusations. The song was raw, emotional, and straight from the heart. For a moment, things went silent again. Until June 15th, 2008, when Buck hit the stage and shouted to the crowd, "G-Unit!" That one line lit the match again. Just 2 days later, on June 17th, 2008, 50 Cent fired back hard, releasing the full-taped phone call where Buck could be heard crying while talking to him. It was brutal and humiliating. 50 aired it out for the whole world to hear. But Buck wasn't backing down. The next day, he dropped a diss track called The Taped Conversation, his direct response to the leaked call. He poured every ounce of anger and pain into that record. Then, on July 1st, 2008, G-Unit dropped their second studio album, Terminate on Sight. But Buck was only featured on 4 tracks, clearly sidelined. After that, 2008 was quiet for Buck. He claimed 50 was blocking him from releasing new music, and honestly, it felt like it. So by 2009, Buck took matters into his own hands and started flooding the streets with mixtapes, proving he could still move without G-Unit's backing. Then came the hit nobody saw coming. August 3rd, 2010. The IRS raided Young Buck's house over $300,000 in unpaid taxes. Things went from bad to worse fast, because during the raid, they found a gun. Since Buck was still a convicted felon from the 2004 Vibe Awards case, that discovery was serious business. He insisted the gun wasn't his, but it didn't matter. The feds charged him for illegal firearm possession. 2 weeks later, on August 19th, 2010, Buck filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which finally allowed him to break free from his G-Unit contract. For the first time in years, he was an independent artist again. He started dropping more mixtapes and albums on his own, trying to rebuild from the ground up, but trouble kept finding him. In March 2011, G-Unit Records came back swinging. filing a $10 million lawsuit against him, stacking even more legal chaos on top of everything else. And then, just when it looked like things couldn't get any darker, March 4th, 2012 hit. Buck survived a drive-by shooting. That night, after a scuffle at a club in South Nashville, he and his girlfriend were sitting in their car when gunfire erupted. It was another close call in a life that just couldn't catch a break. The drive-by was terrifying. Someone pulled up and fired 11 shots straight at the car. Miraculously, young Buck wasn't hit, but his girlfriend took a bullet to the shoulder. It was another brutal chapter in a life that already felt like a movie gone wrong. After that night, Buck had no choice but to face the music, literally and legally. He still had to answer for his IRS debts and the gun charge. On July 13th, 2012, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison for illegal firearm possession. Then came another blow. The IRS auctioned off Buck's possessions the following month, pulling in around $53,000. They called it a last resort to cover what he owed. But to Buck, it felt like they were stripping away the last of what he had left. On August 6th, 2012, he officially turned himself in to serve his sentence. 18 months behind bars, time to think, reflect, and rebuild. When he finally got out on October 2nd, 2013, Buck kept things quiet. No new music, no big public appearances, just silence. But behind the curtain, something major was brewing. 50 Cent had started making peace with old GUnit members, Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, and yes, even young Buck. Then, on June 1st, 2014, during Hot 97 Summer Jam, 50 shocked everyone by bringing them all out on stage. The crowd went absolutely wild. It was the official GUnit reunion. After that, it felt like the old days again. The crew hit the booth heavy, flooding the internet with freestyles over other artists' beats, a classic GUnit move. They even announced plans for 2 new EPs, and for a moment, it really looked like Buck and 50 had finally buried the hatchet. But by 2018, that piece fell apart, again. 50 claimed Buck owed him over $300,000, and instead of settling it privately, he went straight for the jugular. He hit Buck with cease and desist orders to block him from releasing any music through GUnit Records. And if that wasn't bad enough, 50 started clowning Buck publicly over a messy rumor involving a transgender woman named Perfect. Word started spreading that Buck had secretly been involved with her, and then things exploded when an audio clip surfaced of a man, allegedly Buck, begging her to take down posts about their relationship and release a statement clearing his name. Even with her apology, the internet ran wild, and the scandal took on a life of its own. For Buck, it was déjà vu. Another public storm threatening to bury the man who'd already fought his way back from the edge so many times. After the scandal broke, Perfect posted again saying, "Unfortunately, I haven't had access to my page for over a week," claiming someone else had posted the drama without her knowing. Meanwhile, young Buck went online and denied everything. In one interview, he admitted he'd been catfished once, but swore it ended right there. He insisted he never had any kind of relationship with the woman and believed the whole situation was a setup, though even he wasn't sure who was behind it or why. Buck's side of the story was clear. The trans situation didn't go down how people thought. He said it wasn't even the reason 50 Cent was coming after him. According to Buck, the real beef was money. He discovered he'd been underpaid, and when he confronted 50 about it, everything blew up. What started as a conversation about business turned into years of petty shots, lawsuits, and tension that never seemed to end. Fast forward to 2023, and Buck announced that he was selling his music catalog to raise the money he desperately needed. For a man who once stood shoulder to shoulder with hip-hop's elite, it was a tough reality check. Buck had always been so focused on the art, the grind, the music, the fans, that he overlooked the business side. That mistake left him financially tied to GUnit long after he'd been dropped. And while 50 Cent went on to become one of hip-hop's biggest moguls, he never stopped throwing shade at Buck, mocking him online, reposting old clips, and turning every headline into a punchline. That never-ending feud left the Nashville rapper climbing uphill ever since his fall from grace. Even with all the pain, the setbacks, and the scandals, one thing's for sure. Young Buck's story is one of raw talent, tough lessons, and survival. He had the skill, the charisma, and the hunger, but fame and loyalty came with a price that almost broke him. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold hip-hop stories, and I'll see you on the next one.